am going to start Indian economics included in GS paper 3 of UPSC Civil Service Mains Examinations, which has been taught by the Pratik Gupta sir, and I have studied it from the batch name Khajana, batch name Titan, and which is previously recorded BD, which is the recorded video on the PW channel. Introductions to Indian economy. Introductions. I will the this is the क्या बोलते हैं starting of the lecture from introductions to Indian economy. Introductions: what is economics, what is economics, what is the economy, etc. Concept of GDP and GNP, national income growth and development, both prelims and mains perspective. Banking and finance, monetary policy, priority sectors, prelims perspective. Fiscal policy, government budgeting and planning, Niti Aayog, both prelims and mains perspective. Public debt, both prelims and mains perspective. Inflation, demand and supply, prelims perspective. Capital market, prelims perspective. Foreign trade, foreign investment, FDI, FPI, BOP. Currency exchange rate, GAR, GTAA, etc. both prelims and mains perspective. International organization, WTO, IMF, World Bank Group, etc. Poverty and unemployment, Manregas, land reforms, agriculture, subsidies, food subsidy, connected with food security, PDS, and food processing industries, petroleum and fertilizer subsidy, industrial policies, corporate governance, corporate social responsibility, infrastructure, triple P and other related areas, investment model, miscellaneous. Upcoming economic survey and budget will be covered in a separate YouTube video, or you can learn it by yourself from the searching it from the website. What to read? NCERT books need to be covered before watching lecture. It is not necessary. Or daily newspapers and magazines, The Hindu, The Indian Express, class material, theoretical part and topics not covered in the classes before the next class, revise the previous class. How to update notes? You can leave 1/3 part of the page vertically or leave half a page horizontally while making class notes for updates. Once the classes are over, you can update topics from the news of the economy Times newspaper. Try to add relevant information only. There is no need to make a separate booklet for update or updated in the laptops in a separate file. Now let's start from the introductions of the economy and economics. What is the difference between economy and economics? Economics is the study of how people, businesses, society and nations deal with resources, land, labor, capital and entrepreneur in an efficient or economical way. In other words, it helps in the optimal utilizations of resources. It helps in the optimal utilizations of resources. Branches of economics: microeconomics and macroeconomics, behavioral economics. Microeconomic, study of individual taste and preferences. Macroeconomic, study of society or taste and preference of all. Behavioral economics, when the behavior of an individual is impacting the decisions or demand for a good. Economy is the practical implementations of economics. Examples: Indian economy, US economy, etc. Economists are those who study how and why societies, nations, businesses, and people distribute resources and their associated implications on human well-being. Households provides labor and businessman to the entrepreneur, and in return it provides various goods and services back to them. and with the help of money paid by the entrepreneur to these people, they demand various goods and services. Firms and household, it's run in a cycle because whenever goods and services provided in the firms will become as a output in factor payment, and in firms which will be connected in the form of tax, that is spending factor services, for which कौन सा factors है. Concept of GDP and GNP, gross domestic product. GDP means the total amount of goods and services made within the boundary of a country, and it does not matter who made it, but it has to be within the boundary. GDP. GDP means the total amount of goods and services made within the boundary of a country. Total amounts of goods and services made within the boundary of a country, and it does not matter who made it, but it has to be within the boundary. It does not matter to who made it, but it matters that but it has to be within the boundary. In India, the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, MOSPI, calculates GDP quarterly. Gross national product, GNP, means the total monetary value of goods and services made by the national or citizens of a country on this globe. Anywhere on this globe. Now, if we have to calculate GNP, that is gross national product, means the total monetary value of goods and services made by the national or citizens of a country anywhere on this globe, is equal to GDP plus net factor income from abroad. GDP. Net factor income from abroad is the difference between the factor income of Indians from abroad and the factor income of foreigners from India. Foreigners from India. Indian economic khazana. Now let's come on the second lecture, which is the continuation of the gross domestic product. Base year, gross domestic product, base year. It is the year whose prices are being used to calculate the real gross domestic product. It is the year. What is base year? It is the year whose price are being used to calculate the real gross domestic product. GDP. It is the year whose price are being used to calculate the real gross domestic product. Goods and services which are within the boundary of the nation. Which year should be considered as base year? It has to be nearby, not very old, and should be a normal or stable year. No major ups and downs, no new reforms, no war or economics crisis in that year. A revision in the base year is essential for better policy making. It is meant to track structural changes in a economy and improve or update macroeconomics indicators that reflect the economic performance of a country. India has now subscribed to the System of National Account (SNA) 2008, was evolved by the United Nations to maintain a similar pattern while calculating in different countries from better comparison. The International Monetary Fund (IMF) special data disseminating standard. India used to change the base year every 10 years from 1949 till 1980 to 1981. But after that, India started changing the base year every 5 years. The practice was broken in 2009 Saturn because because that year was not considered a formal year as it succeeded in the global slowdown of 2008. Hence, the next base year was fixed for 2011 to 12. Next time the revision in the base year was supposed to happen in 2019 say 20, but it didn't happen, and India is still using 2011 say 12 as the base year. Important definitions. On coming on the important definition, base price. What is base price? It is the price at which the factor cost is adjusted with production taxes and production subsidy. मतलब it is the price. Base price is the price at which factor cost is adjusted on the basis of production taxes and production subsidy. With production taxes and is adjusted with production taxes and production subsidy. Market price. It is a price under which the basic price is added with the product tax and product subsidies at which consumers purchase the product. Factor cost. It is the cost that includes the cost of productions of land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur. Depreciations. It is the part of the capital that gets consumed during the year due to wear and tear. It does not become part of anybody's income. Gross. It indicates that the products are counted regardless of their subsequent use. When depreciation is deducted from the gross value, then it becomes the net amount. Net domestic product at market price (NDP) is equal to gross domestic product (GDP) depreciation. The problem of double counting. Gross domestic product (GDP). It is defined as the current value of all final goods and services produced in a nation in a year. But what are the final goods? Individuals who calculate GDP must avoid the mistakes of double counting, which is counting output more than once as it travels through the stages of production. For example, what would happen if a government statisticians first cannot the value of tires produced by a tire manufacturing company and then counted the value of a new car sold by an automaker that contains those tires? The value of the tires would have been counted twice because the price of the car includes the value of the tires. To avoid this problem, which would overstate the size of the economy, government statisticians could count just the value of final goods and services in the chain of production that is sold for consumptions, investments, governments, and trade purpose. Intermediate goods, which are goods that go into the productions of other goods, are excluded from GDP calculation. This means that in the examples above, only the value of the car would be counted. The problem double counting can be solved either by calculating the value of final output or by taking value added to each firm. What are intermediate goods? Also explain the problem of double counting regarding GDP. Intermediate goods are goods that go into the productions of other goods. Intermediate goods are sold between industries for resale of the productions of other goods. मतलब intermediate goods जो होता है are sold between industries में सोल्ड किया जाता है फॉर रीसेल ऑफ द प्रोडक्शंस ऑफ अदर गुड, जिससे कि नया प्रोडक्ट्स बन सके और वो बेचा जा सके. दीज आर क्रूशियल इनपुट्स एट टू एनी प्रोडक्शंस process, and a significant part of our manpower and capital stock are engaged in the productions of these goods. These are excluded from GDP calculations to avoid the problem of double counting. The problem of double counting. GDP is defined as the current value of all final goods and services produced in a nation in a year. But the value of the final goods already includes the value of the intermediate goods that have entered into their products as input. Counting intermediate goods separately leads to the error of double counting and will highly exaggerate the final value of our economic activity. For example, if government statisticians first counted the value of tires produced by a tire manufacturing company and then counted the value of a new car sold by an automaker that contains those tires, the value of the tires would have been counted twice. Thus, while calculating, one must avoid the mistakes of double counting for an accurate estimation of GDP and economic activity in a country. The problem double counting can be solved either by calculating the value of final output or by taking value added of each firm.